Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good morning to everyone. My name is Abang Akmal Irfan,
Nama saya NORAZLAN bin MUKIRAN.
and today I'm gonna to introduce you the file backup and sharing server for semester 5. So when it comes to background, this project will solve the problems that occur in Department of Information Technology and Communication. This project also involves all the processes from getting the hardware to work properly in this environment, installation and configuration, and final system testing. When it comes to main part of this project is to free up local storage space by moving large files to local file server. Secondly, replacing internet connection with LAN to reduce internet quota consumption and upload files to public folder for everyone to access. Now let's go to problem statements. So there are three problems the students and lecturers have experienced before. This includes insufficient space on local storage device. So basically, those for those who have devices with low with lower super storage space like 60 gigs, 32 gigs, or 32 gigs, but the problem is the it the storage increasing of is increasingly over time. So most the students and lecturer will worry about running our space on local storage device. Secondly, uploading downloading files uses a lot of Ethernet quota. So basically, when you access the cloud service like Google Drive and Dropbox, just to access those files and retrieve them for offline viewing. So basically, they will use the internet quota because using cloud service does not actually use the local area network, but actually it uses the internet to use the cloud service. The third one, sharing files by USB storage device can be time consuming. Uh, but in normal life, so people usually rely on USB storage devices just to share files with other people by copying files to multiple PCs one by one, which can be time consuming. But the problem is, speaking of that, it also leads to risk of spreading malware from USB flash drives to multiple computers without warning. So that is the three problems that we find for this project. So when it comes to objectives right now, our first objective is to move large files to local file server. By moving large files to local file server, people, the user will be able to free local storage space more quickly, and plus they don't have to worry about random space. So for instance, if the user thinks that their storage space is running out or running low, so they can move their large files to local file server by using such features like FTP and etc. The second one, set up local area network, then local like server, local file server. With local area network, it can help reduce internet quota consumption since the local file server does not rely on the internet. So basically, when you connect to a local file server, uh, it actually uses its own local area network instead of the internet. So that means when you upload or download the files to or from local file server, it will never use the internet quota. So that means every time you upload small or large files, so you don't have to worry about internet quotas consumption because LAN is absolutely free to use without even processing a quota. Finally, upload files to public folder to local file server. as I said it earlier in problem statement, so sharing files using USB storage device can be a big problem because of time consuming and risk of spreading malware to multiple PCs. Um, just upload files to public folder to local file server makes the files that you upload in the public folder will be available to everyone to up view when necessary, download it, and they can enjoy for offline viewing. Okay. When it comes to system scope, the first one that the system will merge large files settled by user to local file server. So basically, anything that is selected by user from the device will be uploaded to local file server immediately. Um, the second one is set up LAN to reduce internet quota consumption as users downloads the file. So most people, some students lecturers don't like eating a lot of internet quota consumption. So they with LAN, so it can prevent consuming user internet quota by using LAN instead of internet, just to let users upload or download the file from local file server anytime they want. And lastly, files uploaded by users public folder should be available to everyone. So when the user uploads the files to public folder, that file or even more files should be available for everyone to view immediately, or they can retrieve it wherever they want just for offline viewing. So usually by downloading them to their local storage device. So the users for the user scope, so for our project, this is specially designed for semester 5 students and lecturers. Speaking of that, that also is also beneficial to administrators because without the administrators, the files, if there's something wrong with local file server, people, students, or lecturers will not be able to access those file servers until the administrator fix them as soon as possible. So that's why the administrator comes into place just to make sure that the local file servers is always up and running without any issues. And when it comes to project significance, so for this project, it can help students, lecturers feel less worried about running out of space because there's students don't want to let's say having one year device running out of space because they need some files, and when they try to download the file and it fails because of the storage space is running out or running low. So by just uploading files to moving large files to local file server, uh, students or lecturers can feel more comfortable because they can put new files. Let's say if a lecturer wants to send a new file to students to view them. So basically, they can fill file. If they fail, if students fail, the storage space is running out. They move all the other large files to local file server. Then download the new file, upload the by lecturer for for offline viewing by students. Secondly, LAN helps internet quota consumption so users don't have to worry about it. So basically, LAN is different from internet. So LAN is local area network. So basically, internet. So just like when you browsing website, especially using the cloud storage, it actually use the internet quota, which can be frustrating. And if you upload or download the large file, it will use a lot of quota, which makes you to pay more just for the large storage quota. So that's why Lens comes into place. So you don't have to worry about quota as you upload or download the file to from the like local file server. And finally, using local file server to share files, reduce time consuming and the waste of spreading malware to USB flash drives. So as I said earlier from objectives, so by just uploading files to local file server instead of sharing files via USB storage device, it it can help reduce the time consuming time consumption of copying files to copying the same file to multiple PCs one by one, but also reduce of risk of spreading dangerous malware to USB flash drives. So that means you use this method instead of USB flash drive, you will not be having your system get suddenly infected with malware. So by just using a local file server using in instead of USB flash drives, so you don't have to worry about the system being infected by instead of being infected by the malware that is infected into a USB flash drive. Okay, so let's go into a literature review. So our literature review is divided into three resources, which includes local area network, wired, wireless versus wired networks, and the cloud versus local storage. So let's beginning with local area network. So basically, a local area network is a network that connects a device within a local area such as office, schools, college, and or universities. Then it's also generally privately on-network, which is not public because they just only meant for local and can be a benefit as the benefit of sharing hardware and resources between end users such as network attached storage, printers, scanners, and etc. So local area network is divided into two types, internet and Wi-Fi. So basically, internet LAN involves devices, especially networking devices. They are connected directly using a wire connection, which is an internet port. So that means you don't need equipment like routers just to set up wireline because that is the local direct connection to the local area network. And the second one is the Wi-Fi, which means you actually don't need the internet cable. Actually, you're using the Wi-Fi just to connect to your network. We are worry about wires. So that means with Wi-Fi, you don't need an internet cable, and that means you could also have your device to be in the network as you move around, as long as you within the range of the network itself. LAN runs at speeds of 10, 100, and 1000 Mbps when it comes to the directly connected internet LAN, and it is smaller than metropolitan area network and wide area networks. Unfortunately, there have been disadvantages as well. So as I said earlier, and you can see on the top inside the table there have been an advantage and disadvantage. So you can see it allows users to share hardware resources like NAS, printers, scanner, etc. between end users, which could also reducing hardware and resource costs. And and speaking of that, end users can use the same server in number of connected computers in the same network, so that we are purchasing a license separately because the software we know that if it's computer is connected to the same network, so that means with the same software, the end users can enjoy the same license as well. That means those IT managers don't have to worry about purchasing license or some sort of it, and which also reduce the cost of purchasing a license, software license as well. Apart from that, data within the network itself can be shared easily between end users, but it can also be stored on a centralized local server for backup purpose. As, and finally, it provides internet access to all end users that is connected to the same network. Now let's go to the disadvantage. So the initial setup cost was technically high because it involves networking devices such as routers, switches, network adapters, and etc. Because these devices or equipment, they actually not cheap actually. So think of it like the gigabit internet switch or even the adapter. They're not actually quite cheaper as the fast internet switch or adapter. So it costs more than that. And the second one, if in case of the LAN is not secured properly by administrator, the unauthorized users, possibly the hackers, can access the LAN easily. And once once the hackers just when get inside the LAN, they can try to steal something like um, confidential information like user information, business information, and etc. And finally, land administration is generally covered since problems with land may arise from time to time. Let's say that users feel they have problems with their internet connection or having problems accessing the centralized file server. So we are the land administrator, it won't help. So that's why land administration comes into play. So land administration could help those problems that has been complained by end users by fixing them. I did think the problem what's cause of the problem and fixing them as soon as possible. So once the problems have been fixed, so the land should be just fine without any issues. Okay, now let's move on to wireless versus wired networks. So basically, for this generation, the need of workspace will be covered by networking cables, device and cables are very common because these days, and at office or even at homes, they usually cluttered by a bunch of internet or network cables and devices like a very long Ethernet cable, but also a bunch of switches and even the router as well. So to solve this problem, wireless network comes into place by owning the device itself to connect to the Wi-Fi or wireless or access point without the need of the internet cables. That means you can use the internet, bust the internet wirelessly without being tied to the internet cable, but you can also move around as long as you're within the range of the network itself, but also you can wirelessly share files and resources anywhere in the home. Now, it also makes networks less cluttered than those wired networks because when you compare with the wired network versus wireless, so basically wireless is the best for those who want a cleaner environment, network environment. We are being cluttered with a bunch of networking devices, cables. So that's why wireless networks is much more benefit for those who want their workspace to make it, or even office just to make it completely clean. Finally, it can handle large number of users than what can expect with wired networks because wired networks they are generally limited to a maximum number of ports that you found on switches on or routers. Now let's go to this vendor. So they also had this disadvantage as well. So it's basically just like the wired networks. They actually cost too much to set them up because it's equipment and just like the wire networks. So they aren't easily cheaper. So they are quite more expensive. So it wasn't cheaper enough to set them up. Secondly, the file transfer speed are slower than wired networks. Um, Usually, unlike wired networks, the transfer speed for wireless network they're actually pretty much slower than wired because it somewhat has some sort of latency because of range and even where the user is currently at right now. If the range is too far away, then this transfer speed will be eventually worse. Or if it's gets worse, it just drops and the file transfer should be failed immediately. So this transfer should not be suffered because of uh, the device is too far away from access point, which can be frustrating as well. And the third one, the security of wireless network is generally less secure. For instance, if the hacker, so usually neighbors is well enough to steal bandwidth, steal the internet connection from someone else by guessing the simpler and easy to understand, very commonly used passwords, and it is also susceptible to confidential exposure by hackers if the wireless network itself isn't secure well enough. Let's say you don't install some secret update, if you don't configure them to make them even more secure. So hackers find any kinds of exploits inside the wireless network, so they try to exploit them and which allow them to gain access to the network itself. Okay, so that's done for wireless versus wired networks. So let's go ahead to cloud storage versus auto storage. So cloud technologies has been very powerful today. So because users, business organizations have used this cloud storage just because they really want to access them anyway, even those who are at home right now. But some of them prefers local storage instead of cloud. So there have been for some reasons. So let's say because the cloud storage was too expensive and etc. Security. Oh, just one big mistake. So just to know that. So when it comes to cloud storage, so it basically stores data in online space provided by a local storage provider, while the local storage stores data locally through hard disk drives, um, SSD, and even external hard drives. So basically, speaking about this, I want to tell you that um, cloud storage can be accessed anywhere, anytime you want. So that means if you forget that you um, move your file to a USB flash or some sort of it, so the cloud storage comes into place, so you can retrieve it anytime, anywhere you want, whether you should be have an internet connection, so you can get that file um, immediately as soon as possible. So, for example, let's say in the office, if someone else forgot the presentation file, so they can up at home, so they can get a file from the cloud service they just uploaded couple of hours ago, couple hours ago, and download them to their local storage device. That means once it's downloaded, the user can enjoy the presentation with the others. Um, so let's compare with local storage device, local storage. So when it comes to speed, cloud is somewhat slower when it comes to speed because it relies on maximum transfer speed provided by ISP, which means that means if your internet speed is about 30 Mbps, so I think the speed will be actually transfer is about 3 megabytes per second. And when it comes to local, the local transfer are much faster than cloud because they are rely on even LAN. You transfer it from LAN, or you can even transfer it physically through USB, like the external storage device, like USB flash drive and external hard drives. Uh, when it comes to capacity, so it's technically cheaper per gigabyte, but local storage provides larger capacities than that. While the local provides more storage than cloud, including 2, 4, 6, and 8 terabyte. Because cloud is somewhat only provides commonly up to 1 terabyte, while the local you can store the files up to 2, 4, 6, and 8 terabytes. So when it comes to security, it's all up to cloud storage service providers. So the security department at the cloud storage service provider usually provides extra additional layers of security to the cloud storage service. So that means when as you use them, it will be secure at all. So no one hackers want to gain access to cloud storage service um, without specific keys just to exploit them. When it comes to local, admins can have complete control how they are stored, but they can define who can access that data. Like let's say a confidential file is meant for specific third-party users only. So that means everyone else other than those authorized third parties will not be able
Akmal,
to access them.
Akmal,
Huh?
Akmal, you need to remember the Azan also need to present, okay?
Huh? Okay.
So can you
Azan?
please go to Azan part now? It's 35,
Okay.
36 minutes
Azan?
already ending.
Uh,
Azan? Azan?
dengar, dengar, dengar.
Okay. Sambung dari depends on internetnya. Loh?
Dengar, dengar.
Sambung dari nak depends on internet. Start dari local, lepas tu tak compare dengan local.
Depends on internet accessibility. Uh, depends on internet accessibility. Users can access file anytime, any way they want. If not depends on internet, not depends on internet, user not easily accessible and shareable in terms of physical access or transfer, but LAN makes it easier to access it locally. The cost when using mobile networks cheaper per gigabyte than fixed physical storage, but relies on subscription. Cost on LAN, fixed capacity drive costs more than cloud, but provides larger storage as a benefit. backup when using mobile network. The solution in case of drive failure occurs as an alternative for recovery. Backups when using LAN. Risk of permanent data loss if data is still inside the failing drive without additional duplication on another drive.
Oh, oh, benar juga.
Metodologi yang akan kami gunakan adalah waterfall model. Waterfall model mempunyai 6 fasa. Yang pertama ialah requirement analysis. Bawah. Yang pertama adalah requirement analysis. Kami mengadakan perbincangan mengenai projek yang dapat kami bina, fungsi projek dan sasaran pengguna projek kami. Yang kedua ialah sistem design. Pada fasa ini, kami merancang antara muka pengguna dan mengenal pasti perisian yang akan kami gunakan. Yang ketiga ialah implementation. Kami menguji sistem kami dalam fasa ini. Masalah pada sistem ini dapat dikenal pasti dan pembetulan dapat dilakukan. Yang keempat ialah bawah.
Okay.
Yang keempat adalah testing. Pengujian dilakukan agar pengguna kami tidak menghadapi masalah semasa menggunakan sistem kami. Fasa yang kelima ialah deployment. Kami akan mengetahui sama ada terdapat masalah atau kekurangan yang tidak dijangka pada sistem kami. Dan fasa yang terakhir ialah maintenance. Kami akan memastikan sistem kami berjalan dengan lancar dan menyelesaikan masalah jika ada. Ini adalah Gantt chart kami. Kami mengambil masa 104 hari untuk menyiapkan projek kami. Bawah.
Okay.
Ini adalah kos yang kami gunakan untuk membuat sistem kami. Yang pertama ialah custom building center like entry level PC yang berharga RM2,099. Dan yang kedua ialah Acer Veriton M480 yang berharga RM649. Yang ketiga ialah Lenovo IdeaPad L340 yang berharga RM1,899. Yang keempat adalah router. Kami memerlukan 2 buah router yang berjumlah RM858. Dan terakhir ialah switch. Yang dua switch. Mak kos kami adalah RM6,393.
Okay, dah ha?
Sudah.
Okay, so kita akan
Bisa
buka
cuba bertangan.
untuk question Q&A ya untuk panel dan supervisor. Silakan.
Okey, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Boleh dengar suara saya?
Ya.
Okey, presentation ni sangat lama. Saya pun dah lost sebenarnya. Apa yang awak nak buat? Boleh buka dekat introduction tak?
Introduction.
Ya. Ini introduction Okey, boleh tak bagi tahu saya secara mudah dan simpelnya, okey, awak nak buat apa sebenarnya ni? Daripada panjang-panjang yang awak explain tadi, apa yang awak nak buat? Projek apa
kita
yang awak
buat
buat dalam kepala awak sekarang ni?
kita nak buat local file backup and sharing server for semester 5.
Okey, so user dia adalah pensyarah dan student semester lima.
Semua semester 5 student dan pensyarah.
Okey. So sekarang ni awak nak buat satu server kan?
Yes.
Tempat untuk simpan file
Satu server. Apa?
pensyarah dan student.
Buat satu server. Lepas tu?
Ialah untuk simpan file untuk student kan? Untuk student dan juga pensyarah.
Ya. File simpan backup file untuk student dan pensyarah.
Okey. So nanti server tu dia bersambung menggunakan medium apa? Adakah secara wireless ataupun
saya tak dengar dengan jelas.
Oh. Okey, dengar.
Dengar.
Okey. So nanti projek awak ni apa medium yang digunakan untuk nak connect kepada server awak ni nanti? Contohnya
Switch.
Ya.
Switch, basically switch dan router sekali lah.
Ya.
Switch dan
So
router.
nanti kabel lah. Wired lah.
Wired lah. Wired.
Okay. So nanti dia akan digunakan mungkin dalam kelas lah kot. Saya rasa lah. Kan?
Ya.
Okay. Kemudian saya nak tanya lagi. Apa method untuk apakah cara kita, macam mana kita nak upload file ke server awak?
Macam mana nak upload file kah?
Ya. Adakah
kita guna pakai FTP client software seperti FileZilla.
Okay. So nanti nak kena upload lah. User semua nak
yang FileZilla tu kita log in.
Ya.
Dan terus kita boleh cari directory kita nak upload ke mana, atau kita cari apa yang file kita dari server itu kita download terus ke local storage device. Ada upload atau download feature.
So semua user dia ada akaun masing-masing ke macam mana?
Administrator akan asingkan.
Administrator akan asingkan. Okay, dalam kes ni siapa
administrator? Student ID lah.
Okay. Akmal? Okay, dalam projek awak ni siapa yang akan bertindak sebagai administrator?
Kalau untuk administrator, saya lah sebagai administrator.
Pelajar lah, student lah ya? Okay, boleh buka dekat objektif. Akmal? Boleh buka slide objektif tak?
Ada, ini objektif.
Saya tak nampak.
Cik dah Akmal, saya nampak.
Dah salah tak? Tunggu lah. Cuba reset. Reset. Dapat kah? Ini objectives.
Okay, objektif satu adalah kita nak upload file besar ke local file server. Okay, yang tu sangat jelas lah kan.
Ya.
Yang kedua adalah awak nak set up local area network untuk local file server, pun sangat jelas. Yang ketiga ni saya kurang jelas, upload files to public folder. So sekarang kita ada beberapa kategori folder ke macam mana? Satu public, satu private ke? Macam mana ya projek
Ada
awak?
yang, so basically saya rasa mesti ada dua jenis. Ada yang public untuk ada each folder, dalam private folder ada student ID lah. Yang public tu ni saja kita upload dalam file public folder tu, dia akan make semua file yang upload dalam public folder tu available to everyone. So that everyone can access that public folder without a password, some sort of it. You just go to public folder and download it immediately, or if you can just view it immediately from the software itself.
Okay, so kalau mengikut kefahaman saya, so nanti setiap user dia akan ada folder masing-masing.
Untuk private lah, untuk private
ada,
folder.
Ya, kemudian ada satu folder public untuk share
untuk
file
kita
semua
share,
tu, kan?
untuk kita share files untuk everyone else to access it, or you could just retrieve it. We need it for offline viewing on local storage device.
Okay, faham. Okay, seterusnya saya nak tanya berkenaan dengan, kalau tengok pada metodologi tadi, okay, metodologi bawah lagi. Sikit je saya nak tanya hari ni sebab saya ada kelas jam 12 sekejap lagi. Okay, bawah lagi. Okay, dia ada sistem design. So kalau mengikut penerangan kawan awak tadi, Azlan, okay, awak akan design user interface, kan? So maknanya sistem ni nanti akan ada user interface yang awak design sendiri ke macam mana? Dan apa fungsi user interface kat sini?
Fungsi
Interface. Interface. Betul. Sebenarnya tak perlu design. Betul, salah, ya Allah. Salah tu.
Nampak kan? Okay, sebab tadi saya dengar awak sebut jugalah sistem design, nanti awak akan design user interface. So apa fungsi user interface kat sini dan macam mana ataupun awak akan bangunkan sendiri user interface untuk upload file ke ataupun menggunakan yang sedia ada?
Yang sedia ada lah.
Yang sedia ada.
So tak perlu design lagi lah.
Tak perlu design.
Okay,
Yang sudah ada.
Oh, okay. Okay, saya faham sistem awak ni sekarang macam mana. Seterusnya saya serah kepada supervisor lah. Okay, Cik Zulkifli. Banyak nak tanya tu. Okay, sila.
Tak ada soalan hari ini. Tak ada soalan because we have discussed this one for the past meetings, 2-3 kali meetings. Even though that yang di-discuss lain, yang present lain. So we will gather back later on, okay, ataupun in our next meetings. Cuma untuk Azlan dengan Akmal, okay, you have heard apa yang panel bagi tahu tadi, okay. So you take note, okay. Satu lagi tadi you decided kita nak buat user interface, sedangkan kita discuss sebelum ni kita perlu buat satu user interface, so macam mana tu tak pasti lagi lah. And then ada yang tak ikut arahan, consume 30 minit seorang, so kawan tak ada ni, dah makan kawan punya part pula tu. So yang kawan tu macam makan kapur pula nak present, kesian dia. Makan dia tak tahu macam mana Aziz pergi.
Saya pun tak sedar lah lebih 30 minit.
Yes, you ini dah dibagi tahu semalam kan. So tak tahu macam mana what happened today. I think that's all. I'm giving back to the Vanessa. Okay.
Okay, terima kasih kepada Encik Aziz selaku panel dan juga Encik Zulkifli selaku supervisor awak. So macam Akmal Idris tadi you kata you tak sedar you bercakap panjang kan, why not lain kali you just set your timer untuk presentation. So tengok NORAZLAN pun terpinga-pinga, nasib dia tak tertidur kat situ.
Yalah, ya. Tiga.
Okay, saya rasa tak ada apa-apa untuk perbincangan lebih lanjut. Nanti you akan bincang dengan supervisor you untuk untuk tengok balik apa yang telah dikatakan oleh panel you sebentar tadi. So kita akan berjumpa lagi untuk demonstration yang pertama, di mana kita harapkan pada masa itu projek you telah selesai sebanyak 50% sekurang-kurangnya dan akan dinilai semula oleh Encik Aziz.
Okay, demonstration 1 tu time berapa?
Dalam project timeline saya dah bagi, so awak boleh rujuk dalam apps, dekat situ you boleh tengok dalam project timeline.
Okay.
Okay, so tak ada apa-apa soalan lagi ya. Jadi dengan ini kita tutup pembentangan anda. Terima kasih, Assalamualaikum dan selamat pagi. Okay, thank you.
Welcome.